The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, senior writer at The Spin-off. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
And as long as you're recording, I hear you can go leave for whatever it is you need to do. 5 toilets? Sorry.
Just the 5.
That all?
Oh my goodness.
You should talk to Art Green. He does like 7 toilets. Anyway, wrong show. Kia ora koutou. It is another week on Married at First Sight Australia. This is The Real Pod. My name's Jane Yee. I'm joined by Alex Casey. Unfortunately, Duncan Grieve couldn't be with us today. He chose to leave. But I have a feeling he'll be back sometime.
His girl on the outside is meetings.
Affectionately known now as commitments on the outside. So he'll be on the commitment couch. We'll be giving him a bloody hard time, won't we? Yeah. And we'll be holding him accountable. He won't be getting away with it. And the good news is he's actually sent through a little voice message on one of the couples this week. Not one of the main ones. It's extremely sort of like diving in deep on something really non-consequential, but that is Duncan's way. And we do love a secret message that comes through in Married at First Sight.
It's very exciting. What a tease. Oh my gosh, do we just get straight into it?
I think so. We're going to start with Harrison and Bronte. Now, it's intimacy week. We start with the commitment ceremony. Yeah?
That's right. Oh my God, that's right. They're living separately at this point. It's been really bad. Immediately when they sit down, Bronte is like, yeah, it's been really hard. And Harrison's like, I don't think it's been that hard, to be honest. It's just like every time she says anything, he has to just completely undercut it. Yeah. And was like, I've been on holiday. It's like I've been on holiday. Oh, and this is just the start of a horrible week for Harrison.
He takes a contrarian view, and the other thing he does is twist everything she says to put the blame on her. Never works because it's so obviously him who's in the wrong. But in his mind, he has not owned a single thing at any point.
And that's what's amazing is like you could kind of see how he might think he can get away with gaslighting her and being a nightmare to her. But even on the commitment ceremony couch, he starts doing it to the experts.
I know.
And when they recap, thank God, for the very last time, the girl on the outside drama. And he says that thing where he talks about the photo of the luggage.
He stitched himself up.
And Alessandra's like, did you send her a photo of your luggage? And he's like, are you sure she didn't take that photo herself? And the experts are like, what?
Yeah, that just implicates you as having been with her. It's just like, it's not you saying, I don't know how she got hold of that photo. Maybe it went round a group messaging thing. I don't know. It was like, I can take the heat off me by blaming her for being the person who, like pressed
for taking the damn thing.
Button.
Yeah. She took the damn photo.
He put the murder weapon in her hand.
Completely. It's so weird. He genuinely is like a very twisted character.
Bronte calls him a narcissist in this episode, and I'm not a psychologist, psychotherapist, counsellor in any way, but there are some hallmarks there. And I think this sort of behaviour is exactly the kind of thing, right, where he just has zero self-awareness. Like, he's never in the wrong, even when there's basically a big neon sign over his head saying, I'm wrong, I'm wrong, I'm wrong. He just will not accept it, and it's everybody else's fault. Alessandra,
he does not like getting told off by the experts, and you can see him just breaking out in hives, he's beet red, breaking out in hives, trying not to shout or do something real intense when John and Alessandra and co start getting stuck into him.
This is something that he does all the time, is he keeps, and I think we talked about it last time, is he just keeps his voice quite level and in a way that's a little bit creepy and makes the other person so frustrated that they get all hit up, and suddenly then he's got an opportunity to say, you're being emotional, you're being hysterical, look at me, I'm just talking normally, kind of thing. And super ick. Alessandra says to him, your brain shouldn't be between someone else's legs and body when you're about to meet your wife. Fair point. And I think this is something that you almost could argue, you could almost understand his side of things if it were just like I just met someone, I was hooking up and technically I was single and I didn't know who my wife was going to be. But there is this application process, and there are people here who are like, I'm struggling to find love and I'm going to use this. And it's so obvious he's here just for the like being on the telly experience, you know, because clearly he doesn't have any trouble picking up girls. He goes out of a Saturday night and he's got girls throwing their numbers at him. Just while we're here, I don't understand why Duncan is on this show either, because I do not believe for a single second that this man can't find love. Like, I am in love with him.
I'm in love with him. Everyone is. The whole experiment is in love with him. He was top ranking across the board. Somehow even the men chose him.
I don't want him to have a fall. I don't want him to have a fall from grace. I want this to continue. I want him and Alyssa to be happy in their lovely, sexy life together. I want them. I really want to believe Duncan is the kind of man that we all hope exists in this world. Because then there's hope, right? Then there's hope. And also the fact that someone like that can't find love, stop it. If there's a man out there like Duncan who can't find love, my number is... or you can just email me, jane@thespinoff.co.nz. It's fine as well. Okay, look. Yeah. Back to Bronte and Harrison. There's an argument
it gets
about
so much worse.
There's the I'm not going anywhere versus I'm not leaving argument, which is just semantics.
Yeah, and somehow he thinks he has a point, that she's kind of misquoted it, used the wrong word, and he's like, I didn't say that.
Yeah, no, you didn't say that,
anywhere.
But that's what you meant, and it's very obvious, and those two expressions are interchangeable. And then he's like, oh, you're gaslighting me. He's using gaslighting. He's using the idea of gaslighting to gaslight her, which is like gaslight
This is something
inception.
that, you know, we have talked about how this show has introduced a lot of these concepts to a wide audience, and I think that is like a net positive, but you can also see the way the people are now weaponizing these sorts of words, and you see it a lot on reality TV, people using gaslighting just for anything, you know, but him using it in this context was just genuinely like, Bronte needs to get out of this situation.
She did get out.
Briefly.
She got up and walked away. Alex, I think that like you're a good person, and this is a good podcast in this context to actually just remind people what gaslighting actually is. What's your take on what gaslighting is?
Oh, I don't know how I'm going to say anything succinct. I know where it comes from. I think it comes from like a play. It was used in a play as a technique where a man drove his wife slowly crazy by slowly altering the light in their room.
Yeah, of the gaslight, yeah.
Yeah, so, and I suppose that's kind of symbolic of like these sort of subtle ways that someone can get you to start questioning your own reality, basically.
So I think that's kind of the key thing as well, is like there's some intent behind it, right?
Yeah.
Probably there are a lot of things that on the surface might look like gaslighting, but might not actually have manipulation behind them. It might be someone being stubborn, it might be a misunderstanding between two people. But when you are deliberately twisting words and that sort of thing to your own end and to your own advantage, and to make someone question their own version of events, which you both know to be the true ones, you know, like, have you ever been in a situation where someone's saying to you, it didn't happen that way, when you know for a fact it did, and you know they know that it happened that way, and it just makes you want to pull your hair out because there's no winning. There's no winning the argument, and that's exactly what's happened here. So she reckons he's bathing in Windex, and she literally sees right through him, which is
that was an incredible line to pull out in like a moment of deep distress, I thought. Like, I was like, good on you.
Yeah, totally.
You're seeing a bit of that. Like, I feel like Caitlin's had a few of those as well, like those quite cool mic drop, like, sound bites.
Oh, yeah. Caitlin's amazing.
And Harrison just gets worse and worse. They go to the intimacy workshop with the boys, and he goes in there thinking he's going to teach Alessandra a thing or two.
No,
a
he thinks he's going.
sexologist of 20 years.
He thinks he's going to teach Alessandro a thing or two. He doesn't even get her name right, which I think just speaks to the quality of this man. Can't even bother trying to get a woman's name right.
It's just so gross. And then he when he tried to flex during the workshop, being like, if you get a woman to pleasure herself, next level. It's like, oh my God, why are you explaining this to a sexologist of 20 years? She knows.
That whole her sex workshops, I mean, I feel like that's a segment unto themselves. They were unlike anything we've seen on this show before in terms of just chucking people into a room, whipping out some sex toys, talking about, anal pleasure and so on. It's quite.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a sick child at home and I brazenly was watching the show while she was sitting next to me on an iPad, and there was a point where I was like, it was quite early on, as you can imagine. I was like, oh, I think we're going to have to be in separate rooms for this, Missy.
Yeah.
She's chucking back the bluey and I'm watching Alessandra tell everyone how to get anal pleasure.
I did like how she kind of dragged the guys and basically the entire male population of Australia being like, I've been here for so many years. Aussie men have no game.
And Jesse's like, she's right.
Yeah, yeah. See, that's where Jesse and Harrison differ, At least Jesse has self-awareness and kind of understands.
Jesse has buckets. He's bathing in self-awareness this week. But we'll get onto them just shortly. The date, the intimacy, I don't know what did Harrison and Bronte have an intimacy challenge?
They did do the eye gazing after he set up the intimacy date that she didn't want to go on, so he ended up going by himself, and they sort of tried to make it this funny thing. And I kind of got a little bit angry at the show at this point. I was like, I don't think you can make this funny Harrison on a date with a photo of Bronte joke when you have kind of created this situation where this woman does not even want to be in the same room as this man because he's so horrible. I don't think they get to be like, ha-ha, isn't this great?
Do you know what I've got written down?
I love it.
He sat by the harbour with her wedding photo having a glass of wine. It's quite funny.
I don't know. I thought they were having their cake and eating it too. I don't think
they definitely were. I mean, I don't love it for Bronte, but I enjoy when the show tries to have a lull. It's just this is probably not the couple to do that with.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Because it's at her expense.
Totally. Then they did the eye-gazing task. And at this point, I wrote down, maybe everything is going to be okay.
No, everything is never going to be okay. The thing is she wants it to work. She wants to be on the show. She wants to be in the experiment. She doesn't have any other options apart from Harrison. At this point, the girl gang is super solid, which I love to see. We don't have as yet any kind of crossing lines too badly or anything like that. No one upsetting each other within, the brides or within the grooms, though that may be about to change. One thing I really cannot stand, there's so many things I can't stand about Harrison, but when they were on the couch, both to Harrison and to Shannon, John made it very clear that they are going to have to win their brides back. It's up to them now to go out and prove themselves and win them back. When Bronte didn't go on the date, because quite rightly she was really miffed about everything that had happened, he's like, aha, now I've got one up on her. Now she needs to prove that she's committed to me because she didn't come on this date.
It's horrible.
Why would you go on that date? It's just
the point scoring, it's just awful. So they have these weird moments where suddenly it's like Bronte has a lobotomy and comes back and goes, I'm going to give it a shot. It's going to be fine. And there's pockets where you're like, maybe this will be okay as long as all they're doing is looking at each other and not talking. And that was why the eye-gazing task was like, maybe it's going to be okay. But then we got to the dinner party and it was very clear Harrison be Harrison all the time.
Harrison, this is really shocking from Harrison. I mean, I'm surprised that I can be I'm just shocked he thought he could get away with this, that all these people around the table were not going to put the pieces of the puzzle together and figure out what happened when he went and got a girl's number when he was out at a bar with Dan. That's what we're
Yeah.
talking about? Should we just get into it?
That's
'Cause
what
I
we're
know
talking about.
This is obviously part of Sandy and Dan's story too, and pretty much the only part of their story this week. There wasn't.
This is the main part.
They're a
And
very
that's
lovely
kind of
couple.
like the incredible power of Harrison is that he's not only creating this toxic relationship himself, he is now blowing up other people's relationships.
Yeah,
Just as collateral damage to his own lies. It's
And
crazy.
in the real world take, he's also sucking the oxygen out of their storylines, out of their time on the show, like out of their airtime and their lovely stories being told and not being told.
Completely.
Because A, Harrison's taking up tons of airtime, and B, he's actually the only time their stuff is being covered is because he's going in and blowing shit up. So Sandy and
It's
Dan having a really
amazing.
just a fantastic time and experiment. Dan's been extremely respectful of Sandy's want to move slowly, and takes her out to an Italian restaurant because he knows she loves Italian food for their date. It's all going so good with these guys. There's absolutely no reason for what happens next to happen, except for Harrison. So talk me through what happened.
Okay, so Harrison and Dan went out to a bar on a Saturday night. They seemingly were accosted by a gaggle of girls, as Harrison likes to put it, and they asked Harrison for his number. One of the girls took a shining to Harrison, said, "You're so hot." This is again Harrison's retelling. And Harrison said, "I'm not giving you my number, but I'll take yours. And then I'll delete it after because then that's absolutely fine." And then, so he says he deleted it, and then later on that night he was ringing Adam for quote-unquote boy chat and was telling him about this number and this girl, and Janelle overhears it. Does Janelle think he's talking about Dan, or does Adam think he's talking about Dan too?
I think it might have been framed like me and Dan were out, some girls came up, asked for our number, we said no, but he's basically implicated Dan, or someone's got the wrong end of the stick, essentially, at some point. But they're not the person in the wrong. The person in the wrong, very clearly, is Harrison. He is thrilled when he finds out everyone thinks it's Dan who got the number. He's like,
Completely.
he's just going to have to take the hit on this, Like, what a dick. What an
Because
absolute dick.
Janelle and Adam, particularly Janelle comes into this dinner party, classic MAFS trope, I've got some information. I've got some information, I need to figure out who to tell about this because it involves a groom, and that groom is Dan. And at this point, us as the audience, we don't know that it's not Dan. So I was just like, oh my God, another one bites the dust.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. I can't believe that Dan would do this. And then they start to share it. And then, it comes out that Harrison is the one with the number. Dan did nothing. Dan didn't even entertain it. And yet he's now embroiled in this
And
to the point
Sandy's
where he
not-
foots it with Sandy.
Yeah.
Because he knows everyone's talking about it, and he goes over to Sandy and says, hey, this is something people are talking about. It's not the truth. But that doesn't matter. Sandy's completely rattled and walks away crying.
And then Sandy's not even there for the moment when Harrison gets bailed up by everyone and it comes out, And he keeps defending his position on it, like, I took her number so she couldn't contact me and I deleted it. Look, I understand that in a situation where you've got someone hanging off you at a nightclub or something, they're bothering you and you're just like, yep, okay, I'll take your number, goodbye, I'll be in touch. And then you obviously don't want to give up your number. But this is a situation in which he's not alone. He's got Dan there, so he's definitely... And I don't feel like Harrison's ever the kind of person who needs to he can stand up for himself if he wants to. But the point is not whether he did the right or wrong thing, taking or giving a number. It's that he was quite happy to let everyone think that it was Dan who'd done it. And so he's defending his case about the ins and outs of what actually happened with the girl, when in fact that's not what anyone cares about so much as the fact he's prepared to let Dan, well, as a viewer, I'm most shocked that he's prepared to let Dan take the hit. People at the table are upset that he took the number, rightly so, given the kind of guy that he is.
Including Bronte, who misses some of this as well and comes back, and Harrison recaps it, and she is like, okay, yeah, that's fine. You took a girl's number and deleted it.
Because he front-footed it too. So earlier on when it all started coming out, he sits her down at the table and was like, hey, look, I just want to let you know, I went out on Saturday night, got this girl's number, I deleted it straight away, I just needed to get rid of her. Again, yuck, yuck, all these women chasing me, they really want me, yuck. And because it hasn't come out yet, she's just kind of like, and she's trying to make it work. She's like, okay, yeah, I believe you. Thank you for telling me. The only reason he's told her is because it started coming out. You know,
Totally.
It's not like he told her that Sunday morning after the Saturday night out. Plus, this combined with Shannon going out and meeting up with his cousin wife, what the heck are these people doing on their weekends? And why are they not being followed by cameras?
I know.
They've got far too much freedom.
I hate to say it, but you got to lock them in those apartments.
You do. You either have to
and you
lock
got to
them in
take
those
their phones
apartments,
off them.
or you got to tie in a whole another crew. I mean, I don't take their phones off them, but just make sure you have access to their phones all the time, and you've bugged them, and let them go free on the weekend, but just follow them with cameras. Okay, I just don't want all this action happening when I'm just forced to like take Shannon's word for the fact it was his cousin, and I don't know. You know?
Yeah.
I want to see
We
it.
need to see. We need to see. I want to see him going, shh, to Linda.
Me too.
But we'll get to that. Just on the Bronte Harrison drama, when it was also starting to come out, it was very clear that Harrison was on like damage control and doing all this stuff. The experts were absolutely losing it watching it. And I thought it was like very cool. John was just like, help me out here, like staring at the rest of them. Because it's almost like Harrison defies their craft. They do not know how to deal with this man. He's like too much.
I have a friend of mine said they listened to some sort of official kind of podcast where the experts were on it, and they talk a lot more about the psychology of things. I think a lot of the less dramatic kind of stuff that will probably be a bit boring for the telly, but is really interesting inside info. I won't listen to it because I'm time poor. But if you are time rich, then go for it. But I think it's interesting to kind of remember that the experts are actually experts and not just telly people, and they have been holding people much more accountable this season, which I like to see. And I really feel like after this week's episodes, I've taken away that doubt that I had that they aren't armed with a lot of this information to begin with when they go and watch these dinner parties. I always think they already know everything and they've kind of like faked their reactions, but I feel like their reactions were quite genuine this week.
It felt very pure because it feels like you're watching Gogglebox or something, you know, like they're just sitting around reacting like we are at home.
Exactly. Yeah. And I love to see it.
Do love to see it. Was there anything else? So Bronte's still standing by Harrison at this point.
Bronte's standing by her man. And it's that classic thing, I guess, of it's not as bad as last week. You know what I mean? Like so much bad stuff has happened now that her barometer's all out of whack. And
totally.
She just really didn't want to be the drama couple this week. So she's doing everything she can to just kind of like dampen the fire.
It does just make me think though, like I want to believe in Bronte.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBit.
Talofa lover, I'm Madeline Chapman, editor at The Spin-Off. If you have the means, consider supporting our high-quality journalism by becoming a Spin-Off member. Sign up now at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
But I don't know if she's here for the right reasons. You know,
think she's here for
I
telly
don't know.
reasons?
I don't think you'd put yourself through that time and time again and you'd see any kind of glimmer in this man unless you have a vested interest in your online beauty school having more success.
Unless she's came here for the right reasons, but it's clearly not working out like she planned. She's like, well, fuck it, I'm just going to stay on here for as long as I can and get the most out of it, which is valid, you know? If he's going to use her, why doesn't she play him at his own game? Jessie and Claire.
Oh, what a turnaround! I mean, two.
I had to say, you know, last week everyone was really, really hating on Jessie, and I was like, I feel like there could be a redemption arc here, and we're seeing it, and I hope it continues because these two, when they're good together, are so cool. Like such
It was
a
there.
fun and yeah.
At the wedding, we saw it. I was like, I can't believe they found the perfect person for this very specific man with a very specific set of icks. Yes, she does tick some of them off, but this week we saw him, I guess, relax his ickometer.
We saw him
go to the crystal shop.
in a crystal shop, handling crystals, letting her talk about them and seemingly listening. He chose one that he quite liked. She came back and saged the room. He even had to go over the pillows. I mean, this is a huge turn in Jessie, and I love it. They had a really long, lovely hug. Jessie feels bad about what happened because we didn't even talk about the commitment ceremony where Lyndall kind of gave some insight into why Jessie would have been so suspicious of Adam and Claire.
Oh, that's right.
Remember?
Lyndall is always bringing little tidbits to the party, isn't she?
I know, and that's going to cause
I think
problems
it's cool.
too. But
I know that it causes
she's
drama,
obviously
but-
observant. She's observant, and I think also people think that because of the kind of person that she is, she's not going to cause drama. And I don't think she wants to be, but she feels very loyal to her friends, and she wants to make sure that they're not fucked over. But then again, with something like the Jessie situation, where, if you'll recall, Jessie suspected something was going on between Adam and Claire on a night out where there were no cameras, and it transpires that Adam said to Lyndall, "Don't go home, otherwise I'm going to end up going home with Claire." And Adam's like, "That makes no sense. Why would I say that?" But it makes perfect sense if you're worried you're going to be tempted to do something. And so you're like, "Can you please stay? Because I don't trust myself not to take her home if there's not someone else here sort of keeping an eye on the situation." But what it does
and
is
why
shows
would
his intent.
Why would Lyndall lie about that? I feel like Adam once again kind of got off pretty lightly on this because
got
there's
off
other men doing much
He
worse.
got off so lightly because he came and did this big apology on the couch to front foot being, blown up by everyone. And of course everyone was like, okay, fair enough, you've done this apology. But then undermined that completely the next day. He was like, well, that was all bullshit, that never happened. So poor Janelle. I don't have high hopes for those two.
Don't like it. But yeah, when Lyndall dropped that bomb, Jessie was clearly like, well, there is something here. And I thought that was going to make their relationship kind of worse. But this week, things actually got better. He also did that intimacy date where what was it? It was like a weird platter that had Tim Tams and chutneys.
Yeah, and bowling
olives.
with the tinfoil ball and some water bottles. I thought that was really cute. I think for anyone else, they might have framed it as like, oh, it didn't really do anything romantic, but he framed it as, I don't want to do anything fake and push it too far. This is where we're at. Let's have something fun and chill so no one feels any pressure. And I think it was clearly the right thing to do. They ended up having a really nice, deep conversation. He got vulnerable. He's gone ahead and written an anti-ick list, all the things that he likes about Claire. It's a very long list, and it's very thorough and genuine. And I love it. And they pull a fake arrival at the dinner party, which is cute and fun. And
Oh, that was cute. They just
I
look
want-
good together.
they do. I want the best for them now. And
It also is testament to the experiment.
It is.
Like we do shit on the casting and the experts a lot, but you're like, wow, Jessie is actually open to changing? Like,
he has a
what a
really,
concept.
Yeah, he has a really good ability to be able to self-reflect and then make changes. Whereas, some of these other dudes don't seem to be able to have any self-awareness at all.
No. Should we scooch through some of the,
Yeah,
not
some of the-
boring, but just slightly lesser featured couples this week?
Melinda and Layton, only interesting thing really between these guys, it feels like there might be stuff simmering in terms of some sort of potential drama ahead. But he tried to light a candle by putting paper in the toaster and then tried to use a knife to get the remnants out.
This man is a CEO.
Yeah, I know. I do feel like that is a little bit Duncan Grieve energy though. So
It is Duncan Greavy.
I don't think that I think that both things can be true. I think we've seen it in our very own lives.
He is a CEO of an animal weed company as well, and that's like
That's true.
big stone
That
age.
is massive stone energy. He's not afraid to use knives, No. I think
I do kind of like seeing them together. Like when they did that little dance class, it was cute. When they have these little asides. You don't really ever get to see much of them at one go, but it looks like he's kind of less in it than she is at the moment, which is a surprise.
Yeah. He doesn't seem to be taking all the intimacy stuff very seriously. So just watch the space. We just haven't spent enough time with them. Adam and Janelle. Now, you'll recall at the very beginning, Janelle was a little bit like sus about Adam's job as a prize site entrepreneur / future podcaster, and whether or not this was something that might set him up and be stable. And he was very offended by this. Duncan Grieve thought he'd been bathing in Windex and could see right through him. And he's got some more thoughts, which we're actually going to share with you now via voice note.
Okay, Flockers, we're just watching episode 10, and earlier in the episode, Adam did a date for Janelle that was quite sweet, but had sort of vibed a little cheapskate, vibed a little bit like Janelle might have been right about her suspicions re his job, etc. earlier in the season. He had this like Oyster Bay kind of $15 a bottle champagne, some pretty small supermarket looking roses, maybe like 3 squares of Whittaker's chocolate. Put that aside. Later in the episode, Jesse goes to apologise to Adam and knocks on the door. What's his gift? It's champagne and chocolates, which are contained in a paper bag. We never see inside it. But Nikki's theory, and I think it's a really good one, is that maybe Adam looked inside and was like, oh, hello, here's my date. We don't know the continuity around any of this, but I think it's a really, really good MAFS conspiracy theory, and, we'll just keep watching, but, eyes on Adam and his spend on Janelle.
Eyes on Adam, spend on Janelle is so good.
It's really
thank you,
good.
Duncan, for that conspiracy theory. Though I feel like we should say thank you, Nikki. Is Nikki on payroll yet from the Real Pod?
I think most of Duncan's good ideas on this podcast are very much Nikki's. It's a good theory, but I do have a just broader question about the general budget for these dates, because I don't think Adam was ever working with a lot. But so is Duncan suggesting he pocketed the 20 that they got given?
Did they get given $20? I missed that.
Well, no, I don't know, but I'm just guessing based on what they bought. And I remember Ollie saying that he went to the $2 shop.
Yeah, no, that's just those guys, because Dan took Sandy to an Italian restaurant. You ain't getting anything for $20. Maybe some garlic bread if you're lucky,
Yeah. So what I'm wondering
they're
is,
not restricted by budget.
So they pitched the dates, and production is just like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, any of these dates, it doesn't even look like production have been involved at all. It looks like, they've written on notepads and done some Googling, and then they've, booked a restaurant or gone to the dollar store. And for some couples, that's fine. But Adam's, I wouldn't say Adam's talked a big game, but it would have been a good opportunity to prove to Janelle that he isn't sleeping bus stop to bus stop, and he isn't stealing sorry gifts from other people and turning them into a date. We don't know that for sure, but it's a sound theory. I have to say, I did see when he was like, I'm putting on a romantic night, and he pulled out, the $15 bottle of bubbles and 4 chockies and like 6 flowers that looked very much like they were bought from a dairy or a gas station. And a couple of emery boards. I was like, he's just quickly whipped to the Chemist Warehouse, picked up some emery boards.
That's right.
Yeah.
And, a foot rub is free. That was like the activity.
A foot rub is quite intimate. I will say that.
It is.
I haven't had a foot rub
But
for a
also,
long
like,
time.
Janelle didn't mind it. In fact,
No.
she appeared to love it.
I know, right? I think Adam's got something over Janelle because she is choosing to not see some of these red flags that are coming up. I'm not saying that cheap wine and chockies is a red flag, but there have definitely been some other more reddy flaggies,
I thought it was a big red flag that he rubbed her foot with a flannel. That grossed me out.
No, that's what they do at the spas.
I've never
Softens
had
the
that.
skin. You're
I
going to
just
the wrong
feel like
places.
flannel is face.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I suppose at the spas, the flannel's foot reserved, they're not then going to use that to wash off the Marmite after lunch. Good point. Mind you, hotel, use the flannel.
Could get a
rid.
freshie.
Yeah.
Adam might stitch it into the lining of his jacket just to stay warm.
So many questions. Ollie and Tani have a lovely, very, very cheap date, but is quite thoughtful and actually quite creative, I have to say, right down to the little soft toy octopus in the water. He recreates their Fiji honeymoon, gets some coconuts, makes some, little cocktails. It's quite cute. I mean, it looks tacky as hell, but it really works for them.
Yeah, they are great. I wish we could see more of them. Our time is so soaked up at the moment.
I know. They're funny. And also, he sounds a bit like Guy Montgomery. Just see if you hear that
well,
next time.
he's a voice artiste, of course, so maybe he's doing a copy.
That. Sandy and Dan, we kind of covered them off really. Lovely time. Duncan and Alyssa, Barbie and Ken, dream.
Oh,
dream,
my God.
dream.
They're such a dream. I love the journey. I love her overcoming her Mormon prudishness and being like, I have had no vibrators and now I have two and I don't know what to do. And that scene
where they're kissing and then she's like, lay down.
Yeah, that scene where there was the massage. And then it pulled back and revealed the camera guy with the boob just looking so uncomfortable. I loved that. I wouldn't want that to happen too often in the show, but I think it's a really cool thing to pepper in occasionally to just remember, we are watching a production here and it's really super awkward and weird.
Yeah. And yet she still wants to lay down while they're kissing. That's how much sexual chemistry there is between them, that even though there are other people in the room, it's when they're like, do you think you'll have sex tonight? I'm like, of course they are. Of course. As soon as those cameras are gone, she's letting loose because she's found a lovely man who's taken it at her pace and been super respectful. What a dream. Lady, what a man.
He also appeared to do the best sort of cheese board of all the dates,
right,
I would say. Yeah. He had beautiful cheeses and meats and olives that I think they bought on their honeymoon. So that was very thoughtful.
Stop.
He's just a perfect man. It's crazy. You're right. It's just bonkers that he is on a show like this.
We did think that about Art Green though, and now we've seen him on Treasure Island and some of the shines come off, when you see people doing their toilets, it changes. But he's hoping we never have to see that with Duncan. This Duncan, not our Duncan. I don't want to see our Duncan doing toilets either.
No.
Okay, Josh and Melissa. How do you feel about Josh after our chat last week? I'm really curious to know what your assessment is this week.
Look, I wanted to believe that Josh was someone who was very kind of open to the sexual conversation in private, that was very understanding of Melissa's needs and didn't actually have any problems with her libido, etc., but just didn't like publicly communicating about it. That's what I was kind of going into bat for, because I was like, I think that's kind of okay. I think I think that's what they private.
I think that's what they presented us last week as well. This week I feel like it's different.
Once Intimacy Week came around, and I think it first sort of flared up at the workshop where Josh sort of scoffed at sex toys and then started unpacking them in front of Melissa and making fun of all of them, that I was just like, nah, you ain't it. No.
So for me, it started on the couch at the commitment ceremony where they talked about their differences, and he said, I was raised to have strong values. And to me, what he, reading between the lines is what he's saying is being open about sex means that she doesn't have strong values, and that undermines her as a person. And that really got my back up. I feel for Melissa, I don't know if it's just because we're at a similar age and stage in life, but I do feel like she's got this new lease on life, and she knows what she wants, she knows what she doesn't want. And I actually think she's been quite, she took sex off the table for him. She's trying to be intimate in other ways, and he's not really giving her anything. And bedroom aside, he's not really giving her anything in any way at all. Did give her a Lego set, which was a Thor hammer, which was quite funny.
And some sourdough muffins, which is not a euphemism.
No, actual sourdough English muffins, meeting her halfway. How about just buying her some sourdough? Just buy her some sourdough.
Sourdough's too spicy for him.
It's true. When they're Legoing, did you catch him saying, did you build growing up? He's straight into Lego speak.
Josh, yeah. I wanted to believe because I was like, that's an interesting situation. And I also, if it had been, that he is totally fine with all the sex stuff, he just has a problem talking about it with the crew, talking about it in public, which is like a very relatable thing. That's interesting. And then also paired with Melissa's kind of the hyper sex positivity, all of that. I would like to see how they would work together like that. But no, this week was definitely the undoing of Josh. I just really didn't like that sex toy stuff. I mean, it's like this stuff is very difficult to talk about. Obviously, Melissa's fine with it, but you don't yuck someone's yum. That's what people say.
It's exactly what he's doing. He knows how much intimacy week means to her. She's not expecting to have sex. She just wants to connect with him. She just wants him to hold her hand, put his arm around, anything. And it's like he's gone like he's very deliberately not having any physical interaction with her. Not, when they wake up in the morning, he's not saying, hello, sweetheart, how are you doing or anything. It's all just very awkward straight away. And I feel that for her because I have been in a relationship before where my boyfriend did, where he wasn't like very affectionate, and it makes you, the moment you start thinking, oh my gosh, they don't like me, then every little thing kind of adds on top of that, and it just builds up. He was so childish about a lot of things that he said. She said some things she shouldn't have said too, but it just doesn't it's just not feeling great. Like he wouldn't even give her a hug before the dinner party.
Yeah.
Like before she's like, I don't get enough sex out of you. Now it's like, I can't even get you to hug me or talk to me or anything at all.
And as she said, this is not living, this is not life, there is no relationship. Aww. I do have to wonder about their future, their longevity.
Doesn't feel good.
Because especially I think the slightly older couples are just not here to fuck spiders.
Yeah.
If it's not working, they're like, I'm out. I don't care. I don't want to work on this. This isn't my person.
She's not trying to build her Instagram profile.
No, they're both genuinely here for the right reasons, and for that, I think they'll head off shortly. Who else is there?
Okay, we've just got two more. We've got Linda and Cam, which there's not a lot to say. They're really fine. They're going to be fine. They've got a little bit of trouble in paradise with him not wanting her to bring drama into their lives, but she can't help it that she keeps seeing and being privy to this stuff that's really awful for other people. Cam, don't forget what show you're on. That's all I'll say. It's like you can't expect to come into a show like this and not at some point be embroiled in if not your own drama, somebody else's. It's just part of the show.
As you said repeatedly, I'm not Dr. Phil.
No, he's
you don't
not
have
Dr.
to be.
Phil.
It does kind of annoy me a little bit. Like I'm like, I think you should be. Lyndall is being super cool on this show. Mm-hmm. She is being like an honest trader. She is straight up. She's not stirring drama. She is like letting her friends know really important information about the people that they're married to. And I wish Cam would just cool his jets a little bit.
Yeah. And she didn't even tell Caitlin about having seen Shannon with this other woman until she'd heard all the other terrible things that he'd done, and the fact that sort of Caitlin was like, well, I'm willing to give him another chance if he comes in tonight and, is ready to bury the hatchet. And she's like, okay, well, with everything that I've just heard, which alone is a reason to go running for the hills, I really feel like you need to hear this as well. Anyway, Shannon and Caitlin comes out on the couch straight up with the I might still love my ex, had sex with her the week before the experiment. Harrison is sitting there going, thank God, he's just sitting there thinking, great, this takes the heat off me for one hot second. She's been in this situation before where she's been with someone who was still in love with their ex and carried on with the ex behind her back. So this is very, very triggering for her.
You can see it, like more than Bronte's kind of reactions.
So. Yeah.
And Caitlin, you can see that this is like dredging up something very deep within her. The way that she's been breaking down on camera genuinely makes me quite angry at the show for putting her in this situation. I hope they do something to rectify it, maybe give her another chance on a future season, because this guy is a piece of work.
This guy really is. For a start, on his date list, he had broccoli, zucchini and candles written down, so that's a giant red flag. What he did end up doing was ordering a lovely Irish meal. This all looked like it was going well, like maybe he had made a mistake, he's blocked the ex, he's running across town with 3 plates stacked with delicious food. He's keen to try again properly. The broccoli and zucchini ended up on his plate. I'll just let you know that. She didn't have any greens on hers, for what that's worth.
Yeah, that was just him. That was just a shopping list.
Yeah, that was just his shopping list, exactly. They do some eye gazing and it seems to go well until we find out it didn't. He wasn't feeling it. She was. She thought it was great. He wasn't feeling it.
He says, "You are a good-looking girl, but not in my eyes." Oh, and as if that wasn't the worst thing. And then he starts to go, if you had walked down the aisle and blown me away, all this stuff with my ex would not have happened. Like
Your fault for not being hot enough, obviously.
It's so horrible. And then you see her just completely like in tatters in her interview saying, all I want is someone to love me. And for this little rat of a man to make this woman feel like this is absolutely hideous.
She
to
has
her
a
credit,
full
she picks herself
attack.
up.
Yeah.
She has a full-blown panic attack, but then that clearly kind of turns into this controlled anger where she has this amazing run of statements where she talks about, you don't need to love me or even like me, but you do need to respect me. And I was like, shit, good on you for getting it together, because it's really horrible what she's been put through repeatedly with Shannon.
And then he's like, what are you, my teacher? I mean, he's just, again,
dad or something.
Yeah, just like then weird, just so childish. I really related to this one as well. Okay, so there's the moment where he said to her, you're an attractive girl, just not to me. I have had someone say to me, who I was madly in love with, because I felt like they weren't treating me special, and he said to me, oh, well, maybe I can treat someone special one day, but just not you. And that has stuck with me for a very long time. Like,
oh my God.
Many years. And I hear that in my head still all the time when I have like periods of self-doubt. That's the kind of thing that like he says that so flippantly, thinking somehow it's some sort of like qualifiable defense. That's going to like honestly has the potential to just stand here for the rest of your life and like pop up to haunt her.
It's unbelievable.
Whenever she's going through tough periods. It's horrible.
And I'm not saying that this is justifiable to say to anyone, but the fact that he's saying that, and he also wears like a horrible jaunty grey fedora, get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here, Shannon. You have no right to talk about people's looks.
If Alyssa Duncan said to me, hey, look, good looking girl, but you just didn't wow me when you walked down the aisle, I'd be like, fair play. Like, you're clearly a god. And to be honest, I feel privileged just to be having a conversation with you. But Shannon, throw that one back in the sea, in my opinion. And I feel okay saying that because he's been such a jerk.
He has been such a jerk. And then after all of this, then the next reveal, which is that both Claire and Lyndall saw him again out on the weekend with no cameras with a girl and a woman, a young girl and a woman, and that he mouthed shh to Lyndall and did like a little shush sign. So they've got this information. I was sort of confused about when this was all coming out. There was that grab from Shannon where he talked about being like a Tefal man and nothing sticks to him.
Like, I've gotten away with it, right?
Yeah, because his defense was that it was his cousin?
His cousin and her daughter.
But we don't know that. And that's why I was kind of like, shout out Melinda again for being the surprising moral police of the show, where she's like, well, can you describe what they look like? I kind of, at this point, I think we need to see photographic evidence from Shannon.
This is why we need the cameras there all the time, though it does appear that the young girl was maybe around 10 and that his daughter's actually 4. So I think that's why everyone sort of just was like, oh, okay. But he had a problem with them having him up about it in the first instance, and the experts are saying, are you really surprised? You've just told us you're still in love with your ex. You're seen with a woman and a daughter, and then you're doing the shh. Like, of course people are going to rail you over this. I still will not be surprised. Still will not be surprised if it transpires that that was his wife, his ex-girlfriend or whatever, and their daughter. Or there was something untoward about it, regardless.
Because the shush doesn't make sense. Why didn't he go, hey, Lyndall, come on over, meet my second cousin?
That's what you'd do, right? You'd be like, this is my cousin. Here's her ID.
Yeah. Take a photo for her holding the day's newspaper. It's just, Shannon.
So a lot still to come. The experts promise everyone's going to be held accountable. No one's getting away with nothing on the couch this week, so I look forward to it. We have gone over time.
We've gone over time, but there's just been so much to discuss. What a show. I will say this week as well, while Harrison was spinning his yarns around the dinner party about the girl's number, Joe muttered under his breath, he just went, "This is Shakespearean." And I was like, it actually is. Like, it's actually, I mean, I've struggled. I don't know if you have. It's so intricate, it gets hard to describe. Like, you literally cannot make this stuff up.
No.
You cannot make Harrison up. The level of like, gameplay in this, which is not a game.
Honestly, between MAFS and Treasure Island hitting its strategic stride, I can't. Like, my brain is so broken.
Yeah, we'll need to take a break after this. And just
I will.
watch.
No, I just will. I will continue.
And also, I mean, we don't talk about it on this pod, but it's also been Casa Amor for the last week on Love Island, and it's just
God.
The level of deception is just off the charts across the reality universe, and it's exhausting. But we love it.
What a time to be alive. What a time.
We love it.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you, T.I. here. Thank you to the spin-off members. And thank you to the great reality TV producers who make our lives worth living.
But not thank you to Shannon and Harrison.
Nah, not you guys.
Kia ora, this is Toby Manhire, here to urge you to tune in to Gone by Lunchtime, a podcast with me, Annabelle Lee Mather and Ben Thomas, tackling the world of New Zealand politics, from policy to polling, from scandal to psychodrama. Listen to Gone by Lunchtime, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network, wherever good pods are sold.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spin-Off. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spin-Off member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spin-Off Podcast Network.